With Little Nightmares 3 coming out this year, I think now is a great time to talk about some key characters and their possible upcoming role in Little Nightmares 3, and characters that we should keep an eye out for in any up and coming Little Nightmares games. Hello everyone, my name is Jord, and in today's video we're going to be talking about some of the key information with characters you might possibly not be all too familiar with, but characters that do matter to the story going forward. And of course, we're going to be talking about some key information on each of the characters and what to think about when it comes to Little Nightmares 3. So of course, with that being said, this video is going to contain a lot of Little Nightmares game spoiler, and of course this will also spoil other Little Nightmares media, so of course that is your warning. But if you do like this kind of content, make sure to hit subscribe, as it helps out the channel, and of course it helps out myself. And of course I will be doing lots and lots of Little Nightmares content, theories, let's plays, discussions, you know, the usual drill. Anything Little Nightmares I will be covering. So again, if that does intrigue you, make sure you hit subscribe. So with that shameless self-promotion out of the way and the warning done, let's get into this video. So let's start with some of the key characters that I think are going to be making a massive impact in Little Nightmares. This list will not include characters that you already know about, for instance like Low and Alone, the supervisor, or the monster baby, because again, we'll be learning more about those as the game comes out or marketing material comes out about them. But again, we know they're in Little Nightmares 3, we know they are a massive part of the story, but of course I'll be doing more videos on things you need to know, and of course these characters will be included in that. But let's talk about the characters you aren't aware of or have some kind of knowledge of, but how they could really be impactful in Little Nightmares 3 and of course any other Little Nightmares game after. So let's begin. The Mirror Man. You might have heard me talk about the Mirror Man if you followed my channel, because I like to mention the characters from the comics quite a lot. After all, the powers and the settings which get mentioned in the comics are interesting to say the least. I think the comics have key information mentioned in them often and quite a lot, and this is why I am sure the Mirror Man is going to be a part of Little Nightmares 3. This is because the Mirror Man was using the mirrors as portals before it was cool back in 2017 comics. In the comics, we got to see the Mirror Man in action and the tactics he would use to lure the children in so that he could trap them within the mirrors. Now, of course, we've seen a little hints of the Mirror Man around Little Nightmares, and one of my theories is why the mirrors are broken on the moor is because of the Mirror Man. But I think in Little Nightmares 3, we'll get to see the true power of the Mirror Man, and I don't think a lot of people are ready for this horror. Now again, the Mirror Man only appeared in the abandoned house in the comics. Now of course, when we talk about the appearance of the Mirror Man, we actually only have one source for it, and that is of course the comics. And the comics often depict him as quite a well-dressed individual. Now we know the residents of the Little Nightmares world are often adults that have some kind of like higher ranking status within the world itself, and again, the Mirror Man sort of fits that appearance. He is again well-dressed, black shoes, he has a bow tie and a shirt, and of course this isn't the first time we've actually ran into a character like this. We have actually seen it in Little Nightmares 1, where on one of the paintings it actually does depict something quite similar, a well-dressed creature, bow tie. Now there's no information on this painting other than it's part of a collective, especially when it comes to the texture files, but there could be a correlation made between the two, but of course we don't know names as of yet. But it is safe to say, with the amount of usage of mirrors in Little Nightmares 3, and of course Lo being able to use the mirrors, there is no doubt in my mind that we are going to be seeing the Mirror Man in Little Nightmares 3 in some capacity. Whether he is the main antagonist for Little Nightmares 3 or just a little bit of information that gets shown to us, I don't know fully, but I would definitely suspect he has a lot to do with these mirrors going forward. Perhaps Low and Alone accidentally free the Mirror Man from his confinement within these mirrors and his imprisonment, if you will. Now, of course, we're not fully done with the comics just yet, no. There's not only the North Wind we have to worry about. Don't worry, the North Wind isn't on this list as much as I'd like him to be. It's actually the Ferryman. The Ferryman has often been the silent type, and from what we know from the games, comics, and more recently, the Sounds of Nightmares, we know that this expectation of the Ferryman is changing. The Sounds of Nightmares was the first time we got to see and hear the Ferryman in his line of work, and it's very interesting to see how he helps the children escape to the nowhere. Most of the time whenever he speaks, it's cryptic, it's riddles, it's meanings within meanings. Like, his words aren't just for one pair of ears. His words aren't just for the child he's speaking to, it's for the person who is observing this communication, this interaction too. This is why I think in Little Nightmares 3 we're gonna be seeing the ferryman. The ferryman at some point is gonna have some kind of encounter, I believe, and it's gonna be a spoken line of dialogue or something that is very visually spoken. And either way, I think his presence is going to become more known. As they hinted within the Sounds of Nightmares, the ferryman looks like he's going to become a big part to play in the up and coming games. And not to mention that the ferryman wasn't already a big part of the IP. We saw images and parts of the comics where he was a massive key feature, and then also the little hint within Little Nightmares 1 where we got a painting of him ferrying the children across the seas to the moor. And it also would be very nice to figure out where the ferryman really sides. Is he completely evil? Is he somewhat good? Is he surviving just as much as everyone else in the nowhere? Or is he there just to do a job? Or is he literally just a ferryman? Is that his appointed role? Does he just help the kids cross the threshold and get them into the nowhere? The appearance of the ferryman is also a bit of an interesting topic too, because he can disguise himself, as we have found out through the comics and of course the children's stories. So the ferryman can often change his appearance, but when he's depicted in the comics, he's often in sort of fisherman's wear with a hat, long coat, and of course his sagged skin, and doesn't really look to have eyes, but more of like holes, if you will. He stands to also be quite tall with a bit of a hunchback. So keep an eye out for him, because I really do think he's going to have some sort of appearance in Little Nightmares 3, and he's definitely going to be playing an important role in the story of Little Nightmares and of course the Nowhere. Now, I honestly don't think this is going to come as a surprise to most of you, because after the Sounds of Nightmares, Chapter 4, and the Little Nightmares 3 teaser trailer, I couldn't stop feeling that these two are going to be intertwined at some point and get connected in some manner. Now, the Sounds of Nightmares Episode 4 was a collaboration between Supermassive Games, the developers of Little Nightmares 3, and of course the showrunner of the Sounds of Nightmares, Lonnie Nadler. And of course, thanks to that collaboration, we got the introduction of the man with the purple suit and the dummy. And I could see these characters appearing in Little Nightmares 3, more specifically the Carnival chapter. But not only this, I do feel like we're going to be seeing or hearing some kind of throwback to Noon and or Rusty in this section of Little Nightmares 3. And we know from the teaser and the trailers that the settings are a little too similar. I believe Low and Alone are going to see or observe the interaction that Noon and Rusty has at some point, or we're going to see the aftermath of that story that Noon was talking about. I really do think we're going to be seeing a playable Big Top in some manner. For me personally, I would love to see some kind of intertwine with the audio from the Sounds of Nightmares. Like, for instance, as we're playing as Low and Alone, while we're going through that level in Big Top, I would love to hear Noon cry out Big Top in the background, or like some subtle echo in the background, for instance. And of course, let's use this time, I would love to hear what you think, where you would think that would sort of intertwine, especially with the Sounds of Nightmares. Let me know your idea in the comments, because I'd love to hear it. And then we could also see later down the line if we are right in some manner. Now, I couldn't make this list without mentioning one of the most iconic characters in the world and existence of the Nowhere, aside from characters like Six and Mono. These charming little grey triangles have always been a comforting sight within the world of Little Nightmares, and they are truly little lost souls in the Nowhere. Now, yes, we know how the gnomes are made, as this was shown to us in the Little Nightmares Residence DLC, with the lady gnomifying the runaway kid at the end. While a very traumatic experience, it gave us an insight to how this works, but one issue does arise from this is, how come the gnomes are all over the place in Little Nightmares and the Nowhere? Well, of course, I have a theory to this, actually two, but they're a little bit loose and speculative, but I would like to make a video on this in the future. One way is I actually think the gnomes have some capacity and ability to use the mirrors, and they can use these mirrors to get between anywhere and other points inside the Nowhere, and of course, The other thing being that the lady isn't the only one who can do it. There must be some other characters within the world of Little Nightmares or the Nowhere that can do this gnomification process, possibly in a different manner, but can actually do it. And we know that the gnomes are going to appear in Little Nightmares 3 because in some early footage we did see that the gnome was sat on a shelf in the necropolis. So we are fully aware they are going to make an appearance. One thing that's going to be interesting is seeing how Alone and Low react to the gnomes. When we saw the gameplay they weren't particularly bothered, but then again the gnome was high on the shelf and of course massively out of reach. So what do you think? Are there any characters you think that I've missed? Are there any characters you're looking forward to seeing in Little Nightmares 3, or if there's any characters you don't want to see in Little Nightmares 3. Is it too late to add 6 to the list? Nah, I think we'll be okay. I think 6 is going to get possibly like a tiny little bit of screen time or some kind of mention in some manner. But I would be interested to see what you think. So let me know what you think in the comments below. And of course, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit like and subscribe. Really helps me in the channel out a lot. And of course, with that being said, have a lovely morning, day or night, wherever you are in the world. Stay safe, and I'll see you all in the next Little Nightmares theory video.